Jai Maa Kamakhya, Jai Maa Tara, Jai Bhairava. So today I thought I'll speak about a specific aspect of Maa Tara Upasana. So there are a lot of people, I think, among the various sadhanas that I have given online on videos. One of the most popular ones still remains the 16 Thursday Upasana of Maa Tara, which many people keep doing and they keep sending emails. And there's a large number of people who find that it is very transformative, if not addictive. Uh, of course, there is no single sadhana in dharma of any deity that can miraculously cure all ills of an individual's life, because there is various layers of karmas and this and that various things. Of course, that's natural and that's understandable by now. But in spite of everything, still the Tara Upasana of uh, 16 Thursdays, and especially if you like it, you can repeat it again. There is no harm in continuing this process more. That brings about a certain grace and anugraha and blessings of Ma Tara into the individual's life. Thursdays, why? That's because Thursdays connect to, so Tara, among the various forms of Mahavidyas, specifically Tara is like that Mahavidya who stands right in the center between the extreme Amavasya of Mahakali and the Purnima of Tripur Sundari. She stands in the middle and she can give both these aspects to an Upasaka if and when needed. So she can transform into Kali. For example, in Bengal side, Amavasya pujas of Tara are very popular, where she becomes more fierce in nature, where she becomes like Kali Swarup. In fact, this reminds me that Ma Tara is always surrounded by 8 Kulayoginis of 8 yoginis. I mean, there are Koti yoginis, of course, but of them, 8 of them are extremely important, of which the first one is known as Mahakali, first yogini. So you can understand that uh, Tara can turn very fierce. On the other hand, she can also turn like Tripur Sundari. That softness, that mildness, and uh, that aspect of prosperity, again within the limits of the person's uh, broader karmas that with which they have taken birth, within the limits. Remember, there are certain, if you go back to my other videos, you will see that there are certain things like pitru karmas, sarpa doshas, etc. No deity is ever going to touch you with a bhaj pull if those are affecting you, or if there is a severe amount of blockage or abhichara ityadi that has been done on an individual. That's a different matter then. Anyway, everything else remaining constant, more or less, the Tara sadhana is something that benefits a lot of people, and it brings about a certain degree of fluency in life. She, remember, the when you see a devata, you have to see the iconography of the deity. So she carries with her a sword, she carries with her a scissors and all that. So with these, she manipulates the karmas of the individual. So Tara Upasana is something, especially Ugra Tara, when mantra sadhana is done, she can cut off the karmas that surround or tie that individual into a specific situation and free them so that they can grow higher, both spiritually and otherwise. That is one of the very key aspects of Tara Sadhana when proper mantra anushthan is done. This is not, I'm talking about the 16th Thursday one where basically you just do 16 malas every Thursday. There is still that's a very mild form of Tara Sadhana, if you ask me. Whereas the intense forms are when you take a sankalpa and you finish 1 lakh japa following the rules of sadhana, and then you do homa, tarpana, marjana, bhojanam, everything, the whole process. Then it becomes very intense, also very beautiful. I mean, by the grace of Maa Tara, I could complete 2 full anushtans of Maa Tara this year. And I had a lot of wonderful experiences in the process. So Tara is one of those deities. She can shift between the extreme forms like Kali, and she can also become someone like Tripur Sundari. In fact, among the 10 Mahavidyas, the first 3 of the Mahavidyas, Kali, Tara, and Tripur Sundari, are the ones who can grant an individual absolute liberation. Tara specifically governs the realms that are connected to Mahashunya. There is a state of mind, what we call Nirvan, Brahma Nirvan, those, and even beyond those states. She is the force that pulls the individual slowly, slowly into that condition at the higher stages of sadhana. But on a material plane, when doing Tara Upasana, one of the key aspects of Maa Tara, a concurrent process in Tara sadhana is the worship of Bhairava. Now, normally, in most texts and places, you would see that the presence of Akshobhya Bhairava is mentioned. Indeed, Akshobhya is both Bhairava to Tara as well as a rishi from which the Vidya of Tara comes to us. Akshobhya is also like Vasishtha. But more specifically, when the Tara of Tarapit, Maa Tara of Tarapit is worshipped, you would see her iconography that she carries a small child, and this child is none but Shiva. After he had consumed the halahala poison, which is basically the poison of the world, once the poison of the world had been consumed, so it affected him so badly that uh, he was writhing in pain. He was in absolute pain, and that is when Tara comes as a mother and rescues him from that condition. This image is present in the Maa Tara, that whom we worship and revere in Tarapit. And that gives a tremendously protective aspect because she becomes a mother to Shiva. So imagine, in other words, every individual uh, who is born, every jiva who is born is actually an amsha of Shiva. Shiva is the ultimate consciousness of the universe. He is the transcendental Lord. It is his consciousness that slowly comes into every individual and is born. But the moment they are born into this world, they are tied down by the various pashas and the various tremendous exceptional maya and the delusions and ignorances of this world. And that is the state of poisoning. That is the halahala. That is the poison of the world. And the moment the poison of the world affects individual, then he is no more. He forgets who he is. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know whether to go right or left. He's in absolute state of disarray. And the force, that tremendous power that guides an individual during that condition, is known as Tara. She is the second of the Mahavidyas. So when we are worshipping Tara, this particular form of Shiva that we see on her lap, whom she is feeding, is also known as SADYOJATA Mahakala Bhairava. It is very important to understand this, why this particular name has been chosen in texts. SADYOJATA is one of the forms of Shiva. We know that Shiva has 5 faces. Of these 5 faces, one of the face of Shiva is known as the newly born SADYOJATA face. And why Mahakal Bhairava? That is because Tara is connected to the cremation grounds. Especially the Tara of Tarapit, Ugra Tara, is very much present in the cremation ground. I mean, I remember a very good sadhak, spiritual man, who had once told me that if you can't find Tara in the temple, you can always find her in the cremation ground, which is so true. Whenever I go to Tarapit, there are, of course, remember that cremation ground has its own processes, so do not just go in there blindly without understanding what you're doing, but have that little bit of guidance is required. I do not mention processes related to cremation ground in any of my videos, so it is entirely your risk when you enter the cremation ground. Though in Tarapit there is a little bit of the area where everybody can enter and where the Charan Paduka of Maa Tara is kept and you can do seva there, which is open to everybody. That space does not have that intense fierce energy of the cremation ground. But inside, yes, there are places. And yes, it is also true that I have never had an opportunity where I had done a homa or any kind of japa or anything in the cremation grounds of Tarapit, and I have not had an experience of Maa Tara. But remember that you need to know how to protect yourself. There are other processes, so you cannot blindly copy that. However, the main temple is of course beautiful. You can sit anywhere in the precincts of the temple and do your japa, and you will still get blessings of Maa Tara. Coming back to Bhairava, he's Mahakala because Mahakala is the most intense form of all the Bhairavas. And he's Sadyayata. Sadyayata is just born, so there are no complexities. He's like a child. So there is the tremendous emotional state present in Mahakala. There is no calculation of Mahakala as an adult deity. I have mentioned earlier in certain videos as well that when a deity is adult, whereas when a deity is a child, there is a difference in the manner in which they interact with Upasakas. So here Mahakala is a child. In that form, he becomes the ultimate deity of Aghora also, by the way. Aghora means non-terrifying, very simply, though it appears very terrifying, because Aghora, because it's non-terrifying, the processes related to cremation grounds are very well uh, established, as well as not just established, experienced in this form. The reason why it's called Aghora is primarily because the world around is considered as Ghora. So you're the moment you're born into this world, moment you have a, you start growing up, you have a job, you have friends, this that, you get married. There is a whole Ghora complexity around you, surrounding. The poison of the world is afflicting you. In that, Aghora is a path where it cuts through everything and directly goes to the heart of reality. And that is why it involves cremation ground processes and other things, etc. So this Mahakal Bhairava also makes his presence felt when intense Tara Upasana is done by anybody. And therefore, in the traditions of Tara Sadhana, it is necessary, apart from worshipping Maa Tara, to at least offer one flower or some argha, if not a bali, because Mahakal Bhairava requires sometimes a bali process that has to be given. Bali need not be a Pashu bali, it could very well be a vegetarian sattvic bali, but there's a method and a mantra in which the bali is given to Mahakal Bhairava. But even without that, also, anybody who is engaging in Tara Upasana should also spend at least one mala of japa on Mahakal, SADYOJATA Mahakala Bhairava. Even if the actual mantra is not known, one can simply do Om SADYOJATA Mahakala Bhairava Namah. One mala of that and one flower to Mahakal Bhairava. Because by his blessing, a lot of the other obstructions are removed on the path of the Upasaka, especially when they are going deep into Tara Mantra Sadhana. Apart from this, even the Ashtabhairava Sadhana that I have mentioned some time ago is also extremely useful for any Mahavidya sadhana. I mean, whenever you face lot of obstacles in the sadhana, especially in Mahavidya upasanas, it's an extremely good idea to do Ashtabhairava sadhana first, at least for a period of 21 days. You can do it for more times also if the intensity of issues are more complex, and that judgment has to be an individual's own judgment depending on the degree of the troubles that afflict an individual in the path of sadhana. One can continue this upasana of Ashtabhairava for even a period of 40 days or 48 days. It's a very simple sadhana, but it helps to channelize various energies and remove blockages that can stop an individual from progressing faster in the path of any Mahavidya. So apart from that, SADYOJATA Mahakala Bhairava has another very interesting characteristics, that he is very easily pleased, unlike the normal Mahakala Bhairava. Normal Mahakala Upasana, Kala Bhairava Upasana requires a certain degree of proficiency, inner strength. It's not everybody's cup of tea. Kala Bhairava Upasana, Mantra Upasana, I'm talking. With bhakti, anybody can worship. There is no problem. You can go to the temple, you can make some offerings. That's all. That is perfectly all right. And you can chant the Bhairav Nama Mantra, Om Bhairavaya Namah, with a photo of Mahakal, photo of Kala Bhairava, and that is perfectly valid. There's no problem with that. Thousands of people are doing it and they're experiencing the effects. A large section of people have benefited from this, and more will benefit in coming times. There's no doubt about it. However, when more complicated mantra sadhana of Mahakal Bhairava is done, and those mantras I do not normally speak about in public, I only give it to a handful of people when I'm very sure that they can be trusted to execute the sadhana properly and they have the right temperament and the right adhara to do that sadhana. But for Mahakal Bhairava, who is in the form of SADYOJATA in Tara Upasana, remember that he is a child and he is surrounded by the energy of Tara, and slowly the Upasaka feels a oneness with this Bhairava. He himself realizes that he is Bhairava and there is Tara everywhere around who is constantly protecting and guiding him through the toughest of situations. And a an organic faith develops on her. She's an intense deity. She is a mother, but a tough mother. She knows what knots to be cut, what to be changed, so that eventually in few years down the line, that same person can reach a much higher state of sadhana and inner stability. That is her goal. That is her primary aim. That is why the Tara Shakti came to this world, to protect people and lift them up from all types of miseries, ashtapashas and everything. And that is why if you are doing Mahakal Bhairava Upasana, if you are doing Tara Upasana, specifically mantra upasana, it is very good to offer at least some flowers, even if one flower and one mala of mantra sadhana offering. Mantra is also an offering, a seva to the devata, to SADYOJATA Mahakala Bhairava, when you are doing a full anushthan of Tara. Though I have not mentioned the details or even asked anybody to do a full anushthan, but this is more as a general information. For the 16th Thursday sadhana, you need not, it is not compulsory to do Mahakal Bhairava, SADYOJATA Mahakala Bhairava mantra, but you can offer, if you want, just a flower, and you will see the effects of how powerful and how beautiful these things are integrated. This is why Mahavidya sadhana is more complicated than others, because along with her there is always the parivaras, there are Ashtayoginis of Tara, there are the Guru Mandala of Tara, there are various things involved. And in any Mahavidya there is always four beings who have to be appeased, which is Ganpati, Vatuka Bhairava, Yoginis and Kshatrapala. There are balis that have to be given to them. Then there are balis given to other deities who may be passing by in that area. Then there are balis given to Shiva, which is basically kind of foxes or jackals with a specific mantra. And there also there are nimittas where one has to offer the bali and then wait and see that they are consuming the bali or not. And in the manner in which they consume will tell you whether the goddess is pleased. This is more elaborate Mahavidya sadhana, and these sadhanas cannot be done fully at home. But the ones that I have given the 16th Thursday, that is a very much diluted form, and that brings her blessing, and it is her by entirely by her inspiration that I had given this, and I have seen that innumerable people keep doing that sadhana, and I get mails from them and acknowledgement of how it has helped them to overcome various karmas in their lives and move forward in a more positive direction and orientation. So with that, I will end the video here. Jai Maa Tara, Jai Bhairava Baba, Jai Maa Kamakhya.